Welcome to our deep dive into the gut-brain connection. We'll be looking at some excerpts from the Heal Your Gut, Heal Your Life podcast.
Okay.
And kind of uncovering all the ways our gut impacts, well, not just our digestion,
Right.
but really our mind and our well-being.
Yeah, it's a field that's just exploding with research.
It really is.
And what we're learning is changing the way we think about health and wellness.
Yeah, and this gut-brain axis has been mentioned a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is it?
So imagine your gut like a bustling city,
Okay.
constantly communicating with another bustling city, your brain.
Okay.
The gut-brain axis is this intricate two-way communication network between these two crucial parts of your body.
Got it.
And the vagus nerve is kind of like the superhighway connecting them.
Right.
A massive fiber optic cable just carrying signals back and forth.
So it's not just my stomach sending signals to my brain when I'm hungry.
Not at all. The communication goes both ways. And here's the fascinating part. The podcast highlights that a whopping 90% of the traffic on this highway flows from your gut to your brain.
Boy.
Your gut is doing a lot more talking than we initially thought.
So my gut is sending all these messages.
Yes.
What exactly are they saying?
Well, your gut is teeming with trillions of bacteria, collectively known as the microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
Think of them as a microscopic community, each with its own role to play.
Okay.
And one of their most important jobs is producing neurotransmitters.
With neurotransmitters.
Yes.
Those are the chemicals that our brain uses, right?
Exactly. And it turns out your gut is a major producer of these crucial chemicals.
Really?
For example, a staggering 90% of your body's serotonin, the feel-good hormone associated with happiness and mood regulation,
Wow.
is actually made in your gut.
So you're saying 90% of serotonin comes from the gut.
Yes.
What about the other 10%? Does that come from the brain?
Good question. Yeah, the brain also produces serotonin, but it's fascinating to think that the majority actually originates in our gut.
That's wild.
This really highlights the power our gut has over our mood and emotional state. The gut also produces other important neurotransmitters like dopamine,
Right.
which plays a role in motivation and reward, and GABA, which has calming effects.
So when I feel happy or relaxed, I'm partly thanking my gut bacteria.
Yes, you are.
That changes things. It's not just about what's happening in my head.
Right.
It's about the state of my gut ecosystem, too.
Exactly.
What happens if this ecosystem is out of balance?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Research is increasingly showing that when our gut health is compromised, it can significantly increase the risk of mental health challenges.
Like what?
Like anxiety and depression.
So a troubled gut can lead to a troubled mind.
Yeah.
How exactly does that work?
The podcast dives into a Harvard Medical School study that found individuals with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, they often experience anxiety and depression, specifically because of imbalances in their gut microbiome.
So it's not just the stress of having IBS.
Right.
It's the gut issues themselves directly influencing their mental health.
It is. And what's encouraging is that when those imbalances were addressed, both the gut and mental health symptoms improved.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about other conditions? Does an imbalance in the gut impact those as well?
Researchers are exploring that very question, especially when it comes to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Oh, wow.
They're focusing on something called inflammatory crosstalk.
Inflammatory crosstalk. That sounds intense.
It is. It means that when your gut is inflamed, it can actually send signals to your brain that trigger inflammation there as well. Think of it like a distress signal that sets off a chain reaction.
I see.
This inflammation in the brain is thought to play a role in the development of these serious conditions.
So inflammation in my gut can contribute to problems in my brain. This is a lot to process.
It really is. And to make matters worse, there's a vicious cycle called the gut-brain inflammation loop.
Okay.
An unhealthy gut creates inflammation, which affects the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then a stressed out brain sends more negative signals back to the gut, making things even worse.
It sounds like a downward spiral. But if we can heal the gut, does that mean we have a chance to break the cycle?
That's the good news. By taking steps to heal the gut, we can potentially improve both our mental and physical well-being.
I'm ready for the good news part of this deep dive.
Okay.
What can we actually do to start healing?
The Heal Your Gut, Heal Your Life podcast offers some really practical advice.
Okay.
It all starts with what you're feeding those trillions of bacteria in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
They emphasize the power of a fiber-rich plant-based diet.
So load up on those fruits and veggies.
Absolutely. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes act as prebiotics, which are essentially food for the beneficial bacteria in your gut.
So we have to feed our bacteria like we feed ourselves.
It's And then there are probiotics, which are live beneficial bacteria that you can introduce into your gut.
Right, so that's where fermented foods come in, right?
Yes.
Yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, all that good stuff.
You got it. Fermented foods are a great source of probiotics, but it's not just about adding the good stuff.
Okay.
We also need to reduce the things that can disrupt the delicate balance of our gut microbiome.
Things like processed foods, sugar,
yes.
too much alcohol.
Exactly. Those things can feed the harmful bacteria in your gut and create inflammation,
Right.
which, as we discussed, can have a ripple effect on your whole body, including your brain.
So what we eat really does matter.
It does.
Are there other things we can do to support our gut health?
The podcast really emphasizes the importance of managing stress.
Okay.
Chronic stress can actually damage the gut lining, which can lead to something called leaky gut syndrome.
Leaky gut syndrome.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
Think of your gut lining as a barrier
Okay.
that's supposed to keep certain things in and other things out. When you have leaky gut, that barrier becomes more permeable than it should be, allowing substances to pass into your bloodstream that normally wouldn't.
Oh.
This can trigger inflammation throughout your body and may even affect your mental clarity.
So stress not only messes with our minds, it messes with our gut lining too.
It really can, but the good news is there are things we can do to manage stress and protect our gut.
Like meditation and yoga.
Exactly. Things like deep breathing, meditation, and yoga can help calm your nervous system and reduce your stress response, which benefits both your brain and your gut.
I'm feeling calmer already.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else we should keep in mind?
Staying hydrated is key.
Okay.
Your gut lining needs water to function properly. And finally, the podcast mentions probiotic supplements.
Okay. Probiotics sound promising, but I've heard there's a lot of hype in the market.
Right.
How do we know which ones to choose?
They recommend consulting with a healthcare provider for guidance on which strains might be right for you.
Right.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Everyone's gut microbiome is unique.
Yeah. That makes sense. Finding what works for your individual needs.
Exactly.
Did the Heal Your Gut, Heal Your Life podcast mention any specific examples of people who have benefited from making these changes?
They did. They shared a really inspiring story about a woman named Sarah who struggled with severe anxiety and chronic digestive issues.
Oh, wow.
She had tried everything, therapy, medication,
Okay.
but nothing really seemed to work.
Oh, no.
Finally, she decided to focus on her gut health and incorporated everything we've been talking about.
Okay.
A plant-based diet, probiotics, and mindfulness meditation.
Wow, that's a pretty big shift. What happened? Did she see any improvement?
Within 6 months, her anxiety had significantly reduced and her digestion had drastically improved. She described it as finally feeling at peace in both body and mind.
That's amazing. It's a reminder that sometimes we need to look beyond conventional approaches and consider how our gut health might be playing a role in our overall well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah's story isn't unique. Cultures around the world have recognized the gut-brain connection for centuries.
That's true.
And now we're seeing more scientific research backing up this ancient wisdom.
Yeah, the podcast mentions some fascinating studies coming out of Japan
Right.
that link the consumption of traditional fermented foods like miso and natto
Right.
to lower rates of depression and anxiety.
So those fermented foods really are gut healing heroes.
They really seem to be. And over in Europe, the University of Cork is doing groundbreaking research on psychobiotics.
Psychobiotics.
Yeah.
Is that a typo?
It sounds like it, right? But it's a real thing. Psychobiotics are specific probiotic strains that have been shown to have a positive impact on mental health.
So it's not just any probiotic.
Right.
It has to be the right strain for the desired benefit.
That's the idea. The research is still in its early stages,
Okay.
but it's incredibly exciting. For instance, one study at the University of Cork found that the probiotic strain Lactobacillus rhamnosus
Okay.
was able to reduce levels of the stress hormone cortisol in participants.
Wow, that's so interesting. This whole field of gut health is so much more complex
Yes.
than I realize.
It really is. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much we still don't know.
Right.
But one thing is clear, the gut-brain connection is real.
Yeah.
It's powerful, and it's something we can influence through our everyday choices.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about the gut-brain connection and how it impacts our overall well-being.
Right.
We've also talked about some of the things we can do to support our gut health, like eating a fiber-rich, plant-based diet, managing stress, and staying hydrated.
Yes.
Where do we go from here? What's the next step for our listeners?
Okay, so we've learned a lot about the gut-brain connection and how it impacts our overall well-being. We've also talked about some of the things we can do to support our gut health, like eating a fiber-rich plant-based diet, managing stress, and staying hydrated.
Yes.
Where do we go from here? What's the next step for our listeners?
I think the key takeaway is that this isn't about finding a quick fix.
Right.
It's about understanding that our gut health is a lifelong journey.
Okay.
And even small changes can make a big difference. So it's about making those changes and sticking with them.
Exactly. It's about incorporating these practices into our daily lives and paying attention to how our bodies respond.
Okay.
What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay.
Right.
It's about finding what works best for you.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about tuning into our own bodies
I love that.
and figuring out what makes our gut happy.
Tuning into your gut. It really is about listening to those signals your body is sending you and making adjustments as needed.
It's like becoming an investigator of our own inner ecosystem, isn't it?
It is, and it can be a fascinating journey of discovery. The podcast encourages listeners to, do their own research, explore how specific foods or lifestyle changes might benefit their unique gut microbiome.
So much of this comes down to personal experimentation then.
Absolutely.
Right.
And remember, it's not just about the food we eat.
Right.
It's about managing stress,
Okay.
getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, and nurturing our overall well-being.
It's about taking a holistic approach to health.
Exactly, with gut health being a key piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. We've just scratched the surface of the gut-brain connection today.
Right.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you a solid foundation and inspired you to take care of your amazing gut.
I know, I'm feeling inspired. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
As you continue exploring this fascinating area, consider this. If our gut bacteria can influence our mood, could they also be affecting our decision-making, our creativity, or even our personalities?
Wow.
It's a fascinating question to ponder.
It really is. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Who knew gut health could be so captivating? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the gut-brain connection. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel empowered to make choices that support your gut health and overall well-being.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you. Remember, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And now you have the power to nurture your gut and unlock a healthier, happier you.